edition of MIDP Grand Finals. We have angry face. Government is us. Alright, you know the rules, keep the phone silent every day. Prime Minister here.
In the status quo, a large majority of individuals live in circumstances that are unfavorable to them due to the fact that they were just put in those circumstances. What does this look like? This looks like individuals of color who lack the ability to opt out of the discrimination that they face. This looks like individuals from sexual minorities or from gender minorities who lack the ability to opt into what they believe to. These looks like individuals who are forced to fight a fight that is being told to them is a good fight, without necessarily giving them an opt-out mechanism. And the ability for this to exist is something that's dehumanizing in nature and something that's not beneficial to any of these communities. There's the two burdens that we're moving to this debate. Let's be clear on the parameters. I have quite a lot of problems because it's an imaginary debate, right? Firstly, we're talking about expectation. The first three levels or whatever was present, I'll just be clarifying it. Firstly, we're going to remove this from you in essence. Meaning to say that, for example, if you have debating skills that are very prevalent within you, and you want to, for example, sell those debating skills in order to obtain money or in order to obtain other forms of skills, you are able to sell those skills, but in exchange, you will lose those skills for yourself. B, it comes in scales. You don't have to sell everything or nothing. You can sell certain percentages of what you want and what you don't want. For example, if you're an economics major, you may want to sell parts of your economical knowledge, but you may not want to sell everything because you might need to do a test or anything. Right? But more importantly, there's no chance to extract, no pain to extract. Prices are set and we do not value what you have. Meaning to say that if you have skills and you want to sell those skills, there is no skill that is more valuable than the other. There is no identity that is more valuable than the other. Everything is set at a standardized price. Fourthly, we're going to have known therapy in order for you to be able to opt into this mechanism. You need to be very clear that you want to opt into this, and we'll make sure you want to choose to do so. Fifthly, we're going to make sure that this is private in all circumstances, i.e. if you opt into the services and you do not want anybody to find out that you opt into the services then you have the ability to be able to do so. Meaning to say that your information will not be disclosed. Your information will not be given away. And lastly, we're going to have the ability for you to get immediate cash at the point in which where you trade in your skills or identities or abilities and so on and so forth, and you can buy them back at any point in time that you feel that you want something back or barter it in. Anyone.
So what's the point of making it private if those traits are so obvious to the point that other people also know you have those traits?
So there's a very important need to make it private. For example, I might not know that Aiman is a really great debater, but if Aiman proclaims or says that he has good skills from buying his skills, there'll be something that I observe from him. If one day a debater, for example, goes from someone who lacks experience to a debater that's really great experience, I wouldn't say that he bought someone else's skill. I would say that he improved in general, and the accusation of such an ability for me to say those things in defense is something that enhances privacy. But more importantly, when it comes to identity and the ability for you to be able to identify, we recognize that in our world, we are more than willing to stand for a world in which individuals can actively opt out of these things. So in the worst case scenario, if you have physical traits that you change, we already see this present within Interschool. We talk about, for example, plastic surgery, or we talk about individuals, for example, selling other things that is particularly important to them. What are we going to talk about in today's debate? I'm going to bring you three argumentations. Firstly, how the birth lottery inherently destroys your ability and your right to life on a couple of levels. Firstly, what are we talking about, who are we talking about, and why is it such so? Firstly, the recognition that individuals that are born into circumstances in order to die comes on multiple levels. A, economically, you're born within poor circumstances that inhibit your ability to be able to express your self-identity to the best way possible. This looks like someone who's intelligent but lacks the money to be able to go overseas. This looks like someone that's intelligent that lacks the ability to, for example, access education, or for example, access their dreams, or going into modeling and all these industries that require a lot of money. Be geographical. In the majority of time, this looks like you being displaced into other locations because of your skin color, because of your idea, because of the slurs that you have within your languages, or the different cultures that you may not be aware of when you opt into a new land, forcing you to not be part of, for example, the central business districts, but being pushed pushed over to peripheral regions. Fourth, the ability and knowledge that you have. Fifth, the social recognitions that you have as an individual. For example, if you were gay, or for example, if you lacked. For example, if you were of any minority sexual orientations, right? But fourthly, we're talking about inherent rights that are taken away from you due to your geographical position. This looks like people who can't opt out of, for example, Alabama or leave Alabama if they want to access abortions because they don't have the money and the resources to be able to move towards neighboring states or be able to access these things within neighboring states or lack the ability to access housing and living circumstances outside of red states to enter, for example, in blue states. But wrong is that there is no strong incentive for these circumstances to change. In a majority of circumstances, regardless whether you're black or minority or of any forms of minority, there is no incentive for politics to be able to change for you other than a particular party that's politicizing your issue. This means you are trying to put forward and put forward as a political narrative in order to be able to pass for a movement that not necessarily stands there, right? Roe v. Wade stood for a very long period of time only to fall into shambles. Black rights doesn't seem like it's moving anywhere past where it is currently right now, and even if it is, we see administrations come in after 4 years and take that away from you like you will lack the ability to be able to do so. We recognize that individuals sometimes can't change who they are gender-wise, can't change who they are orientation-wise, can't love who they want to be because of the circumstances they're put in, and there's no ability for these circumstances to change within the status quo, nor nothing consistent. But lastly, right, we recognize that the responsibility and the recognition that these individuals have to be able to be free of these things outweighs the recognition that they would have to be forced to fight these things, right? No, this means that if you are an individual and you might don't want to fight the good fight, or if you don't want to be put forward, you want the best benefits, or you believe that your personal identity or your personal life is more important than the group or the identity that you are pegged to, then you have the liberal right to be able to opt out of the good fight and go into something that particularly beneficial to you. This means, and you also recognize that it's right for you to sell parts of yourself. We have this, for example, individuals selling items, organs, and these are all the most desperate individuals. Comparatively to the status quo, it's better on outside the house when you can sell things that you can relearn or rebuy, compared to, for example, selling kidneys to get through in these circumstances. But lastly, why are minorities free from state persecution? At the point where there are less physical and mental barriers to be able to peg you or clock you to what you are and who you are, you're more likely to be able to access opportunities that you wouldn't be able to access as a minority. This means not only do you get to access those white liberal bubbles, but you also get to lower the xenophobia within them by looking like them, talking like them, acting like them, and being able to challenge the narratives towards these things. So you may not want to do these things, but it's particularly beneficial if you choose to go from the inside out to challenge xenophobia within these areas. But lastly, in the majority of circumstances, because you are a minority, you lack the ability to be politically represented in the majority of circumstances. The ability for you to sell, for example, physical traits, mental traits, the ability for you to sell personalities, allows you access to political representation that you wouldn't be able to access. Guys, every one of us has things that are unique to us, we hold close and dear to us, and every one of us have things that we would rather not be with. Give everybody the opportunity to move forward in the way that they want to do, in order to be able to fight for the political, social, and economical justice that they deserve.
Side opening opposition does not really understand how coercing poor individuals into selling the traits that make them human and make them have any sort of ability to succeed in society in the first place allows them to have more political capital, allows them to be happier. We don't think that's true. We agree with the characterizations that the most vulnerable of individuals often suffer from the birth lottery, but we think that the idea of meritocracy that they wanted to push, the harms towards this are going to be compounded on their side, at the point in which the rich are able to access these traits, are able to gain them and compound them to the extent where there is a new center set in society as to what a person should look like, what they should think like, and what their personality traits should look like, should be like. We don't think that is a world in which we want to live. There are four main arguments that I'm going to be bringing in this debate. Firstly, the principle of meritocracy. Secondly, how they actually exploit the poor. Thirdly, how they increase wealth inequality, and finally, and most importantly, how they put a price on skills, looks, and make them to a higher standard that is inaccessible by the most vulnerable in society. Status quo. Before that, I like to start with the rebuttals, right? They said that minorities should be able to access knowledge and traits and information that they weren't able to from the get-go because of the birth lottery, because of things like oppression or whatever. But we think that on their side, they actually make meritocracy worse because recognize that the poor are more likely to want to see instant gratification. That is to say that they're likely to take $1,000 that results from selling their traits rather than actually being able to buy them in the first place. Because recognize, they said that they'll be all at the same price. But how can there be a standard price for each and every single trait if they're saying that wanting to buy a trait that is better than your own in the first place means that there are different standards and levels as to what is better for you, right? Recognize that even if they are all the same price, it's likely to be higher in the first place because this is not something that is easy to replace. It is something that is intrinsic to your personality. We think that there is a very high barrier of entry for these minorities and these vulnerable individuals that they wanted to talk about inside opening government. But more than that, we think that the impoverished will be forced to buy to improve their lives, to gain a higher standard of living based on what the rich dictate and sets for them based on the traits and the personalities that they compound as they continue to buy in this market. Yeah.
In the status quo, if I'm poor and I want money to cater to everything, I sell myself to gangs in order to get more money. I sell my organs in order to get more money. All these things happens in your side where it's irreversible. So what's the comparison?
You compare it as things like government policies that already exist to help the poor. However, on your side, what you're doing is actually setting a different standard for these individuals that makes it ultimately harder for them to be able to break into whatever sorts of job markets in the first place. But I'm going to expand on that later. So firstly, right, we think you actually exploit the poor. When they talk about things like organ markets that are exploiting individuals, we think that is the same concept, right? Because recognize that there is no freedom of choice for the individuals at the point at which you are forced to sell them off as form of sustenance. We think this is a form of manufactured consent, and we don't agree with that. I think that coercion is even more important at the point at which things like advertisements and misinformation is propagated to these individuals by the rich and powerful who seek to have the most desirable traits or looks. I think that's compounded even further on their side. People like Rupert Murdoch, who control media and pop culture, will be able to dictate these narratives to say that you should sell your traits in order for your child to get some sort of a semblance of education. That is very toxic from the get-go. But secondly, I think that you increase wealth inequality on their side. Well, we're not saying that birth lottery is necessarily a good thing, but these structural kinds of oppression and these structural and intergenerational wealth means that rich individuals are obviously going to be more well off. The things that poor individuals are born with, the intrinsic values that they have are the only way out for them. So, for example, Wazir gave me this example that Madonna was living on the reaches of poverty, and because of her skills in singing and her good looks, based on what society dictated them to be, she was able to escape poverty. These are things that are intrinsic to the poor. These are the only things that they're able to have, considering the fact that they are not allowed access to proper education or other things that the rich are able to. Right? No, sit down. We think that because of that, they're forced off to sell these things that will allow them to succeed in society in the first place. These are the only ways in which they can escape, besides government policies and affirmative action. These are the only things that they can act upon themselves. But finally, right, we think we put a price on skills, looks, and traits to dictate what exactly is the best standard to what looks good, what is a good personality. But recognize, right, there's already forms of discrimination in society and standards that exist towards individuals. But the difference on their side is that the difference on our side is that although individuals are subject to certain standards, the fact is that for example, I accept Daniel for his bad personality because I recognize that is something that cannot be changed. However, the poorest individuals or even the middle class who are unable to access this market that is extremely high prices will be unable to get these traits. So it puts the onus on them to say that you are not up to these standards. Why don't you change yourself in order to do that? Because good or bad cause it's runs a parallel to things like plastic surgery, where you tell them that you have to change because they simply have the option to, right? Your inborn traits are disregarded, you're dehumanized, and we think that this strips people of their identity entirely, but also the fact that individuals and the rich and powerful can gain more traits, or they can buy more different looks, faces to set a higher standard in society.
So in the status quo, unlike Madonna, a lot of poor individuals lack the ability to capitalize on the skills that they do not have. What happens to individuals who don't have the skills to capitalize on?
Right. But firstly, recognize that each individual has some sort of like inborn skill, right? But the individuals that have a few in the first place are at a disadvantage. So for them to want to like sell off these traits will result in them having even lesser than they had to begin with. So it means it's harder for them because recognize that the instant gratification that comes from selling off these traits for let's say a few hundred or $3,000 will not be enough to get you to do all the things that you want to, which is get a better quality of life or access more things or to get an education or pay for like cancer treatment. These are all things that will be inaccessible to them if you are running under the context that the poor have like one or two skills, right? Which is what they wanted to contextualize it, right? So recognize that even though we agree that meritocracy under status quo is imperfect, what you do on their side is you completely disregard the strengths of individuals. You refuse to reward them because of the compoundment of existing traits that the rich and powerful will be able to get. We think that ultimately you tell individuals that their identity means nothing, that they should be sold off for a few $100s, and to strive for a so-called perfect idealistic personality and appearance that they're never able to get because of the high barriers that exist to these things. We are, 6:30, very proud to close.
I think it's slightly offensive for side opening opposition to come up here and say that if you're an individual in a vulnerable position, you shouldn't be allowed to improve your situation, whatever means it takes, simply because the system is out there to get you. I think it's precisely the fact that the system is out there to get you that these individuals should be allowed the opportunity to give up the little that they have in order to get better lives. And I think that was a very clear benefit that Roshan has presented in his speech. What does this debate require? Firstly, this debate requires an understanding as to why a person would sell their traits. Because notice that the individuals who will sell their traits more likely than not will be selling positive traits that other people may want, that they may not necessarily need. But more importantly, the individuals who will sell their traits are individuals who cannot find a use for them at this point in time. That means you, as a poor individual who may have the skill to play a flute because you learned it from your folk skills, doesn't necessarily mean you have the ability to use that to get out. What then happens? That means you need the accessibility to certain traits like being able to monetize on other skills you may have, being able to work harder, being able to work smarter, or maybe even barter off your own skills for, let's say, your child's future intelligence so that they can break out of the cycle for themselves. I think it's very important to understand this. But secondly, this debate also requires an understanding that the status quo is one that has no position for the most vulnerable. Keep in mind that discrimination happens on both sides. The question then becomes, how do we allow individuals to step out of these positions that we have inherently placed them in within just because they were born in that particular position? I think outside provides that solution. Multiple responses. Firstly, as to the idea that poor individuals will be coerced to sell due to instant gratification. I don't necessarily think there's a problem with instant gratification. I don't necessarily think there's a problem with needing money in order to put food on the table and selling off a trait that you can't use as of this point in time because of your terrible situation in order to make someone else's situation or other parts of your life better. But more importantly, I think that bartering certain traits for yourself so that you can progress in other ways than what society tells you as a poor person should move towards is also something incredibly important. Things like because you're poor, you should just make of what little you have and sell things on the street instead of being able to continue your education and reach further depths or further lengths of life. I think it's important to allow these individuals to do so. But secondly, as to the main crux of their case, which is the idea that we should not determine standards of how we should behave or not, and it entrenches certain standards we have in this school. I think standards appear on both sides. But more importantly, I think standards are perpetuated in a world where nobody is able to listen to the voice of the unheard simply because they've been born in a position where they're discriminated and when they are vulnerable. In most positions, or more often than not, the reason why the voice of the vulnerable isn't necessarily heard isn't because they don't have a voice to begin with. It's because other people simply deem them to be too dumb, not good enough in English, not good enough in certain skills to be able to have their voices heard. I think the effective inclusion of yourself within the rest of society who's pushing you aside is important in order to make sure, if not you, the future generation of your own group of vulnerable individuals is able to progress because of your presence within that particular time frame. What is the argument I'll present in my speech? I'll present two layers of analysis. Firstly, as to tangible benefits that we can all see and hear from the very beginning of this particular debate. But secondly, as to specifically clashing with their idea on coercing the minorities. How necessarily we help the minorities? But before that, I think it's important to reiterate the fact that I don't necessarily think they took Roshan's argument at its best case, or even at its moderate case. I think what he came up here to tell you is the idea that because a lot of us are born into situations that we have no control over, the world basically sets us up to fail the moment we're born in a position of vulnerability. What does this mean? This means more often than not, individuals are not necessarily bound by their lack of money, but by the position of them being born in that society and not being able to get out due to certain traits they may not have, either because they're not born with it or they cannot access it to varying degrees. How does this tie in with my argument on tangible? I think these traits are valuable and are extremely valuable to these individuals because it influences the way your life unfolds. So the way you look, how smart you are, how much of a people person you are, ultimately affects your standing in society and how you progress into greater lengths and heights. So for most traits, although they're accessible based on whether you're born of them or not, other traits can be learned. Things like going to university and having some form of education, some form of knowledge over a certain specific type of subject that you can now sell to other people. How can the ability to buy and sell traits help an individual? I think in many situations where we require a certain trait in order to progress to the next step of our life, it's very useful. So it's more than things like immediate benefits of being able to be confident before you enter an interview that may secure you the job that will finally be able to put food on your table. It's other things like being a certain individual or type of individual, a people's person, the ability to understand the suffering of other people, which is also very important in today's day and age. But more importantly, there's also the sheer amount of monetary benefit that a poor person can have. Because if you notice, poor individuals don't have many things to sell. The only thing that they have is themselves and the rucksack they carry on their back. What does this mean? More often than not, the most valuable thing a poor person has is their own self-determination and other traits that they have in order to push themselves out of that situation. And it's completely fair to allow these individuals to be able to give up those traits and pursue this form of monetary advancement in order to forward other parts of their life. But how is this particularly beneficial for most of the vulnerable? A lot of the time, the vulnerable are put in a position where people don't hear them. So how do we help them be heard? I think this ties into my second layer of analysis. The reason why our side helps them be heard is because there are a lot of traits that are relatively simple that most of us would believe is common, but isn't as common as we would like to believe. Things like being able to step up to people and talk to them without feeling afraid because you've been systematically pushed away by society. Things like being able to present certain ideas that you have to a mass audience of people other than the group of people within your village, for example, in order to garner for certain changes from the government for your own group of vulnerable people to grow forward. The problem here within the status quo is not necessarily that these traits aren't accessible by a large group of people. It's the fact that these traits aren't accessible by the smallest group of people. Then the question becomes, how is it these people access these traits if they don't have money to buy those traits? I think there's also a barter system that exists within the info site. This allows them to exchange traits with other people that they may deem is more important to them at that particular point in time. But more importantly, if they do choose to sell their rights and in the future get to a better position or do not need that trait anymore, I think it's very important to also know that they are able to purchase other forms of traits or barter for other forms of traits that can bring them to wherever they need to be at whatever stage of life they are at. The point of this is, the world right now is a world that has set every every individual who's born in a system that isn't privileged to fail. You aren't born with the accessibility to the traits or accessibility to certain skill sets that you may need in order to get out of your cycle, in order to make sure that your kids grow up in a better scenario than you did when you were younger. And I think that our side provides them that ability when you no longer have to put yourself contingent upon what material goods you have, but rather what you have as yourself. I think we're extremely proud.
OG's solution to the problem of the poor not having access to education is one to buy a skill. The solution for discriminated minorities to escape the discrimination is to be white. Panel, I think it's extremely offensive in nature to individuals throughout history that chose to fight on the side of accepting people for their differences, for the side that wants tolerance, for the side that recognizes there shouldn't be an optimal standard. Our burden debate isn't to prove to you that the world will be miraculously perfect in nature, but to prove to you that the world of opening government and side government as a whole is going to perpetuate the level of discrimination, because to reverse all fights on negative traits, you create higher standards for individuals, which makes it substantially harder for the truly most vulnerable to opt into. That's the world in which you need to respond to. All the analysis of Egypt was not responding to at all. Huge shame in their speech. Three main issues in this debate. The first, will minorities be successful in challenging structural discrimination? The second, who better helps the poor who have no skills to capitalize on? The third, in which world do you create a world where humanity as a whole can appreciate their values and what they were born with intrinsically better? The first issue, will with all responsibility integrated, by the way. So the first issue, will minorities be successful in challenging structural discrimination? Open government tells you that if a minority recognizes that to get a job interview and he's being discriminated because he's being a black individual, the minority should choose to buy a white identity. Two levels of characterization first, which they need to respond to, right? Recognize that if you understand that there's a higher standard and a higher recognition based on a particular identity or a particular trait, that means the demand for that trait is naturally higher. That means due to the competitiveness of that market as a whole, and people who want to sell it for their own benefit, there will be something that is going to inflate in price artificially on your side of the house. That proves A, it is highly inaccessible to the individuals who truly need it the most. That means the one person who needs that job to feed his family and to sustain his life, that person will not be able to opt into your mechanism on your side of the house. But the second, you worsen the level of discrimination against minorities as a whole. Why? Because the individuals in your world who can opt into this optimum standard of being white are literally individuals that capitulate to the world of oppression. Because the white individuals get recognized and legitimized as their stronger individuals, as the white superior identity. In your world, black individuals who have the capacity to opt into it will thereby opt into it. That means individuals who are most important in fighting for minorities as a whole, because they are likely to be ones with the most resources, the most capacity to fight for minority rights, will easily opt into it based on the characterization of your world. You physically bar away individuals who are the most vulnerable to access opportunities. You perpetuate a world where if you're black, and because the number of black people are thereby so much less, and they get such less even less opportunities to jobs, for example, they get even worse levels of discrimination, and they will tell you, why don't you just be white? I think it's a fundamental and a principal violation of the identity and dignity of individuals of color. Before I move on, sure.
So firstly, it's not unheard of to set an actual price for everything in the market and governments to be able to control it. I don't understand why inflation and accessibility is a problem. But secondly, the status quo, discrimination happens regardless. A lot of women in Alabama can't get abortions anymore, and all these things that happen. So what's the
alleviate discrimination as a whole, but to prove to you why we better solve it on our side of the house. And if you tell us that you want to solve discrimination, I've literally shown to you how you perpetuated that POI in response to the material. But the second, I give you an analysis of how your price will fluctuate. All you say, governments will cap the price. Panel that isn't responsive to analysis we give to you in this debate. And even if it is still highly unlikely to be accessible towards individuals who are truly the most vulnerable and truly the most desperate from the very get-go. But on the second level of response, right? Why is it fundamentally an assault on the dignity of individuals who champion human rights and champion equality from the past? Note panel, when I tell you that if you face struggles as a discriminated minority, all you need to do is opt out and be white. That means you actively working progress of individuals like Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Obama have actively strived towards creating a more equal playing field by having more opportunities being given equally to all individuals, regardless of their color and identity. This is based upon the principle of meritocracy, which each has brought you, and how you actively perpetuate a world where you ruin meritocracy, you proliferate the ability of rich to actively capitalize on every single opportunity you have. Because the simple fact is, they have more opportunities right now, you let them perpetuate that benefit to a large extent. You reverse the progress of individuals on the ability to fight for equality. That means your ability to fight for social rights, for example, so those who are truly vulnerable will thereby be marginal, even at best. We don't see you help minorities in general on your side of the house. But a second issue of this debate, right? Who better helps the poor who have no skills to capitalize on? The first thing I'll talk about is that A, the same way they told us that the poor person will learn how to play a flute will be the same premise in which we would operate on, right? We would encourage governments to have thereby more welfare and sometimes more education for the poor so they can learn a skill or get better education to thereby improve their quality of life. We understand this isn't great and this isn't perfect, but the comparative is simple, right? In your world, you are, as the government, have no incentive to help the individuals who are poor because people in your world will not have an urgency. You create a scapegoat for the government and tell them, no, it's not my ability to give you welfare. All you do is take away your monthly savings, your savings that have been built up throughout your entire childhood, and spend it on a skill in which can generate you income. That in nature violates the principle of the state's duty, makes it substantially harder for individuals who are truly vulnerable and truly poor, which you want to prioritize the most, to opt out of poverty. You make it substantially harder. But the second reason why this happens is due to the nature of the standard you place, right? If you agree that for individuals to improve, they have to buy traits, they have to become better. That means the standard of life and the standard of being accepted as a worker will thereby be improved because people recognize it, employers recognize that you can be better and there can be a better person out there who simply buys more traits, who buys more skills. As a poor individual, even if you see to buy a one-skill economics, you are unable to challenge the standard place because individuals who are slightly richer than you buy 2 more skills in economics, buy 60% of the knowledge that you bought 40% for, and they become better alternatives to being hired from the very get-go. That inflation of a standard means that individuals who are truly vulnerable will thereby be barred from accessing all these forms of opportunities as a whole. Finally, how you actively dehumanize society as a whole. Note panel, we understand that every single individual is different, but the ability for you to live with that difference and be happy with yourself is because you recognize that due to the nature of the birth lottery, you are a person that cannot change what you were born into, the circumstances you were born into. This means you accept that it isn't your fault for being an African American minority, but rather you should strive towards working as hard as you can to improve your circumstance of life. The comparative in your world, when you tell individuals that there is an opt-out option, you actively give individuals high levels of pressure, specifically if they cannot access an option. When you see an opt-out but they cannot reach it, that's the most fundamental violation on how they should feel. You tell them that they're unhuman, and you tell them that if they do not end up purchasing these streets, for example, they will never be as equal as the white person in the room. If you truly support the side that recognizes differences and respects the difference as something that's integral to your humanity, you side with opening opposition. Proud to oppose.
Thank you, Leo. Second half of debate and of government.
Thank you.
You want to hear me? Is good. But now, this motion is very interesting, and there's so much good arguments going on with it. But what the opening half wanted to do was just talk about skills of flutes or exchanging of book knowledge about econs. I think it's more than that. Given that traits are unchangeable to contrast with popular belief, this is where I'm going to give you the philosophical debate this final demands. So let's start with a few questions that are rebuttals that are indicated within my argumentation. So question of exploitation. Given that the birth law clearly exists, side of opposition cannot claim that poor people or rich people predominantly have the best pool of personalities. They are born with it. Poor people may have or may not have the best personalities that the other side wants. There are rich people with low openness, poor people with a demand for other traits. So I can throw to you the converse of your argumentation. That is, poor people may want different traits that they think could benefit themselves and help them out of poverty. That means side of opposition will systematically limit their choices from doing such. So let me move on to my first argumentation, why it is important for the self. Let me give you a context. We live in a world filled with influence. I think a lot of the opposition's argument operate on the assumption that the world doesn't have any form of influence. Let me just name you a few. There's consumerism, there's the hypebeast culture, a standard set by society, either your parent, it will exist any other way. For them to run their argument whatsoever, they need to prove that somehow influence doesn't exist under their side. Like, no, give me a second, huh? So people want to become, so given this context and given this influence, people want to become a certain projection they set for themselves. I don't think this amounts to any more coercion than status quo. Like under their side, they have makeup, they have surgeries that can change their appearances. Not much difference. Why can people achieve their true wanted selves in opposition? It's because personality traits are actually fixed when you are born. So tests like the Minnesota multiphasic personality inventory or the standard one-to-one interview with a lot of therapists, they come to the same conclusion. Yet at the end of the day, your traits are divided into 5 when you are born, and it is unchangeable. Consciousness, agreeableness, neuroticism, openness, and extroversion for things. Like my facts are correct because I got a psychological book if you want to reference. So like for people to contrary belief, it doesn't change entirely after time. It does delineate slightly at certain situations, but it is very minute. What are the examples? People with low neuroticism who are actually needs emotional stability can never be self-satisfied. People with low conscientiousness can never be organized, careful, or disciplined. When I say cannot, I don't mean that they can't try to practice or allow themselves to feel such personality. What I meant is they cannot, what I mean is that if when they try, in the end of the day, they will fall in self-despair by abandoning their true selves. Why is this harmful? Because this means that the disavowal of self is dissonance from your true self is actually very painful. You actively shun yourself. You never find peace within. You get constantly reminded by society that you have no place within that strata. Why is this argument important, and why do we think that this is an extension, not copying anything from side of opening argument? Because I highlight you specifically about personality traits, and how do I say this? It's because personality traits necessarily determines your skills and other experiences you face in the world. So given that personality traits are fixed, this means that the skill you develop, your debating skills, your ability to talk in public, your public debating skills are all predetermined the moment you are born.
You're perfectly fine with proposing makeup as well. The nuance you need to deal with is how you proliferate the levels of discrimination when culturally normative forces like pop culture and media have higher standards that they subjugate individuals who are innocent into.
But that's the fact I don't think you can get away. You don't support makeup, okay lah, principally, but the makeup industry will still exist. You can't run away from reality that there's a $1 billion industry that's literally based on changing personality, right? So this may not be $1 billion, but it's something. I think it's better than that. So second argument, why it is a more fulfilling life. So let me just give you a very nihilistic view of life, because that's my personality trait. I as a Muslim, because it's Ramadan, like when I'm born, I about have 80 Ramadans in my lifespan, given that like average human being is 80 years in Malaysia. Like I got 3,840 Friday prayers altogether, and I don't think that's enough to pay for my sins. And also I only have one life. Right? You were born white, you die white. You were born impulsive, you die impulsive in the day. You were born with the inability to speak in a crowd, you die as such. Born with the faith that you want to be a doctor, but you continuously flunk your exam because of certain personality traits you have. Our life is too short to experience only a single iteration of it. The question then begs, how do you make decisions when faced with a question? You base it on past experiences. If you were a Malay-looking guy and you're hungry during Ramadan, based on your past experiences on being caught by Jais for eating, right? You choose to order food panda home. Don't ask me why I know this. What happens now? Two things. The first thing is that your choice expands, and the realization of choice expands as well. As a person with high conscientiousness, you can now be impulsive, careless, towards many contrary beliefs. There's no such thing as a positive or a negative personality. A lot of them are very much arbitrary in a sense. Secondly, traits or skills become morally arbitrary when you have this market. Why would people buy so-called negative traits? Because it is a life experience in of itself. Given that this is such a big market, right? We need to imagine how big this will become. There will be many franchises of this thing, like boba tea right now. I'm assuming this will be a booming market. There will be niches of interest saying that, and market saying that you should try. It will follow the trend. But I think in a few decades, this trend will change. In this world, there will be a realization that one trait is no more important than the other. Most harms on the side of opposition, talking about racism, the inherent liking of a certain trait over another, will no longer in the long term, because we allow and we give the choice for people to experience certain life experiences that they never had the ability to do. So that's why we solve everything with the magic shop.
Yeah.
I think throughout this debate, a lot of teams have been very convenient. So opening government talked about being able to change your traits, being able to get more more marketable skills whatsoever, without actually explaining the part of buying and selling in order to access the benefits which they claim. And I think in closing government, although Afiq had pretty nice lines where he exposed himself, but I think essentially those choices that you make in their world is so much better compared to ours. If they are complaining about the makeup industry being somewhat coercive and coercion exists, I think in your world coercion exists even more, and those choice factors to making your decision expanding. What is the benefit of that? I think there was no value coming from closing government. Most of my rebuttals will be integrated because here are my two extensions that engage with their side. The first is why money is not a justifiable excuse for individuals to buy traits and then change for success. But secondly, why the push for acceptance of diversity is far more difficult, and why that is detrimental to people of color, minorities, poor individuals, and just everyone. I think in the opening up, everyone just wants to talk about people of color. I think it applies to more of that, right? And this way we extend more from opening as well. So on the first question, why money is not a justifiable excuse for individuals to buy traits. We need to understand that self-confidence and self-value is a prerequisite to individuals being happy. Meaning, money is just a complement to that confidence and just makes your life much better. If you are an individual who feels that your value as a person is significantly less, that you have no place in this world, giving you money may make you feel that you are somewhat valuable, but only for that moment. The point at which you run out of money, then you need to ask yourself again, what else am I going to sell off? What else am I going to let go of from my traits and like personality in order for me to be able to support my family. That constant questioning filled with desperation is something which side of government had to defend. Because if your motives are ones that are desperate, we don't think money can change those very motives, right? Because on the side of government, they keep on selling, we question when that will stop. But the real harm that exists in the world of government, the point in which you can buy and sell traits, is that there is no recognition for the traits that you have. There will be no way for whether you are actually a smart individual with high IQ or if you just bought that off the store. And I think that is significantly detrimental because this means people cannot get that validation from people around them. And this means that their self-confidence and self-value as a person is significantly less. This means that your minority who I don't know, bought the skill of like being very smart in order to try and climb the social ladder, still doesn't get that recognition from the majority of individuals have a seat because they think this is a person who just bought that skill and isn't someone who's actually good at it. They wouldn't credit you as a minority for those reasons. I do not think you get any level of respect, right? And I think that's why the level of self-shaming happens even more. Because the point which you try, you sell everything that you have in order for you to buy that one great trait, it is still not enough to get the majority's recognition. And I think this harm also extends to individuals who do not partake in this market. Individuals who never bought or sold any traits, they're just naturally good at something, or they work really hard in order to get to like be good at math or like be a good accountant, for example, they don't get recognition for that hard work whatsoever. All those sacrifices are claimed redundant because people can just say they simply bought it. Before I proceed to the second question, okay.
I'm a minority individual. I suffer from police brutality daily. I don't have access to money, job, education, and all these basic things that other people would have. If I want to, for example, sell certain traits in order for me to be able to access those type of things because status quo has failed me, why is my decision then illegitimate to pursue my happiness?
Your decision is illegitimate because that is a decision that affects other individuals who are in the same circumstance as you. The point in which you as an African American choose to buy whiter skin so that you become more palatable and therefore you can climb the social ladder, that means there is now an unfair burden on other African Americans to then do the same. People will say police brutality happens because you choose not to do anything about it. Maybe if you spend some money and improve your circumstances, then they won't beat you up, right? And I think that just completely deflects the very discussion. Have a seat. Because the discussion is more towards the discrimination and racism that happens. I think what this market does is it further strengthens and validates those harmful narratives that exist in society, and it's far more difficult for your minorities to get any form of acceptance. The point in which it's easier and there's more ammunition people have towards them, people can just blame them for their very circumstance. Because, and this leads me nicely to my second extension, why the push for acceptance of diversity is extremely difficult. OG tells individuals on the ground that if you are different, the way in which you get acceptance from people is to buy your way to that acceptance. Have a seat. We question the accessibility to that traits to begin with and the acceptance, but we'll take them at their best in order for this debate to be rich, right? So the reason why a lot of people suffer in status quo is because of a lack of acceptance towards these individuals. Who are we talking about? People of color, people of lower IQ level, people who are probably not as smart as others, right? And I think
Before 6.
No, have a seat. So the nuance as to why the push for diversity in the world of opposition is significantly stronger is because you can see that people didn't have a choice in this. People didn't have a choice in their IQ level. People didn't have a choice in their color or in the circumstances that they were born. Therefore, we need to learn to accept these individuals because of the lack of control they had in those circumstances. In the world of government, you change that very narrative. You lose the strongest nuance that you have in order to push for acceptance. Just that what? Your most rich African American can buy a good trait? I mean, come on, that's unfair, right? These are individuals who are the most vulnerable, and I think these aren't the people who should change. The people who should change are the ones who are privileged, the ones who are lucky, the ones who are comfortable. These are the ones that should change. On God's world, people can get away by telling individuals who are less intelligent, for example, to buy some skills, no, it's okay, you're going to work hard, just go buy something and then maybe you can be somewhat successful. I think that is unfair to individuals because of the position they're in, but also inflicts more ammunition towards a minority. That's why we question any form of listening or conversation that the government contends, right? Because if people aren't willing to listen to minorities until these individuals do something about the circumstance and change, what is the point of that discussion? If you want discussions for people to accept them, people need to understand the situations these individuals work in. If there are racist bigots out there who constantly blame and discriminate the most vulnerable of individuals, I think the responsibility to change should be on those bigots, not the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I was never and still isn't the smartest kid in class, or in this case, the brightest of the bunch in my school. And honestly, I still feel envy of my classmates who are able to excel in whatever they do, whether it be in sports or in academics, not because of their fact that they're gifted, but because they are hard working at particular circumstance. And I think a lot of teams in this debate fail to note that the traits or the kind of personality that you have is permanently shaped because you were influenced when you were young by the kind of environment that you grew up in. And to say that certain traits that I buy isn't going to mean value, or the fact that I do that because it's coercive, is exceptionally dismissive because it does not account to the fact that how I value certain traits, for example, being hardworking, right, so that I'm able to do more at maths, exercise, for instance. In those circumstances, I think it's exceptionally important to note that to respect each and every individual's dreams as well as aspirations, what you want to become to be at the end of the day, regardless of what other people say. So this is my first time doing thing, right? So I'm just going to do simple things. I'm going to dissect what opening op say. Second, I'm going to deal with what closing op did in this debate. So opening op did fairly well in this debate with I have 4 issues under opening op. Number one was the principle of meritocracy, right? So she argued that the fact that poor people now crave instant gratification means that they make uninformed decision, hence being coerced to being white, right? For instance, and outside of the house. Number one, it's as if they think that these people are not susceptible to pop culture nowadays. The fact that they need to concede that these individuals are already are already influenced by things like being white, right? The kind of poor people that will live on that side of the house are more likely going to buy makeups to make you more white in those instances. But realize that buying makeups to make you more white in that particular circumstance does not really guarantee instant gratification because people still look at you differently in any way, right? But more importantly, is that the comparative on the outside of the house, less discrimination will happen, hence a more fulfilled, which directly engages with Afiq's point of argument in today's debate. And the outside of the house, when you allow individuals to undergo this kind of undergo by trade, I think it's important that even if they are coerced, they are able to live a happy life and get instant gratification in any way. But number two was a question of exploitation of being poor, because they argued that when sell means you increase wealth inequality. Number one, this is circumstantial. I understand why there will be increasing wealth inequality. But number two, I think that this is very simple for them to argue because poor people can sell their trade and get money from that. I think they are able to get income in that particular circumstance. So I don't get why it was important in that instance, right? But even if it was true, we don't think it's fair for you to characterize what exploitation of individuals, what exploitation is on the outside of the house. Because when poor people make those decisions, it means that it gives them value in that particular circumstance. Whether it be being white or whether it be having a trait of being smart, I think it gives them value. Because at the point which it gives you value, I don't think it exploits you anymore. So even if you lose money, you get in terms of a very subtract, in terms of feeling better, right? So, any contribution?
Your case is extremely privilege-centric. Not many people have the resources to try new things or to experience new traits, and that inherently must be shown in the comparative points parallel to our case on how we disproportionately harm minorities in the process.
Which are high levels of barrier. I'll deal with that in my fourth issue. The third issue is a question of discrimination, and does it worsen? Because the logic was if a lot of your black individual are more likely going to white, then it really it disrupts the Black Lives Matter movement or whatever Martin Luther King has done. It's not necessarily true because the situation is still the same on that side of the house when people are still struggling with discrimination in any way. But we realize that there are already counter narratives that can exist on the outside of the house. Anyway, that is to say that not everyone will definitely go to what? There will be counter narrative saying that you should stay black and be appreciative of your culture in that particular circumstance. So we think it's very convenient for them to take that particular case anyway. But for high levels of barrier, so they ended their speech with saying that no, white privilege have the best, more money. They are able to buy more economical information, hence performing the job. Number one, I think money in these circumstances might be a certain problem that should be taken care of in this way. But realize that individuals are also able to sell their trades to get money and buy as well as trade with other trade with other trade. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah, but yeah, you get it, right? So I think in those circumstances, you are able to ensure that your high levels of barrier and entry can minimize that damage, ensuring that each and every one of us are able to access that in that particular circumstance. But even if so, I think the discrimination part that they wanted to argue doesn't really respond to the urgency that we want. So if you are discriminated in your workplace now, wearing makeup on your side of the house to be a little bit white does not change the fact that you still get discriminated, right? At least on the outside of the house, we respond to the urgency that you become white, for instance, to get instant gratification in that particular circumstance to ensure that they live a life that they are mostly happy of because it's sure.
So in your world, there is a higher barrier of entry because more people will blame you for not buying the traits or not buying the correct traits that society entails. How is that then a lower barrier of entry that more people in the world can access? So in your world, there'll be more people like coercing you and blaming you for not buying the correct traits that society says. Why is that then an easier way for individuals to get acceptance and be happier?
Because in comparative ways, like for example, you are shit with maths, right? So people will say you should work harder, but in individuals who have like ADHD and things like that, they struggle in being hardworking in those circumstances. And I think this is an exceptionally important gateway for them to achieve as well as prove those advantages that we want them to have at the end of the day. So how do we do closing off this debate? So I came up with this debate with a very philosophical approach. I think this is Afiq's fault with regards to how when you lose money means you have no value in life anymore, right? A few responses. Number one, this is false because realize that changing your personality or changing your color is something that it impacts your life at the end of the day. But having different traits is also something valuable that you keep or you hold something on to dear to, right? But we think, I think people still have value when they don't have money, right? They just value the trait more than money. But B, so they wanted to say that people who have no gratification right now, I think number one, this is the subject of people that actually know that you've undergone a trade, like you trade a trade, right, in the magic shop. Like people aren't spies, right? People don't go and see whether or not you have went to trade your personality. But even if you somehow know, I think it's circumstantial and it's minimal at best. Ladies and gentlemen, I think at this point, none of the opposition banks have proven to us why individuals, especially those who need it, will live their life to the maximum as well as the fullest. I think closing government specifically did that this way, and that's why I'm exceptionally proud to close.
Yeah, sure. Very happy with my lower bed.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with my rebuttal on the closing government, right? Okay. So they said that people will choose based on their preferences. Like and technically in your world there will be more coercion because there is in both worlds there's pop culture, there's media, there's movies and everything, yeah. And in their world they have this magic shop which coerces them even more, right? So like more irrational decisions are made in their world, and even if like they can buy these things there, it is not that beneficial because the people don't credit them for it, right? And also another rebuttal towards closing government about how people are told to work harder. Like for an example about the AdMax thing, and people say, oh, if you have ADHD, some people just can't work harder enough. And why is that different from saying that poor people can't buy these products, right? So that's basically a kind of contradiction where you're letting these sit down, please. Where you're letting these people who have ADHD, who just can't work hard, and you're asking them to go through this, and then whereas these people who are poor, they can't buy this certain thing, which is not allowing them to do what they want to change in their life. Another rebuttal I have towards closing government is that they say that you can change yourself to make like others happy, like others know you better, like others credit you for everything you have, right? So even if the change is private, on what the opening said earlier, right? People can always assume that you change yourself by buying that certain thing to make you have a special skill. So sooner or later, these people will find out that you bought this skill from the magic shop. Like for example, Roshan's example, the debater thing, right? If you were a very good debater, you want to make yourself better, and in order to do that, you take like years of training, right? That's how you become a experienced debater, a good debater. And if you want to just do that by going to the magic shop, you're gonna have to just go there and just sit down. You're just gonna have to go there and then train or buy this certain skill, this certain debating skill from the magic shop, and then eventually, when next time you come here and debate, some people might have that suspicious feeling that you did something, and since this magic shop exists, people can just say that, oh, you did this, and you use this magic shop as a way. Sit down to something. People use this magic shop to get better, and so the credit wouldn't go to you; it will just go to the magic shop, and that's why it's very bad outside. Yeah, okay.
Women of color who wear lighter makeups are still part of feminism. African Americans who straighten their hair and change their accents still part of Black Lives Matter. The ability for minority individuals to opt into majority culture has never been this empowering in history, but more empowering because it allows you that choice. So why is it illegitimate in these forms?
Okay, so I'm gonna get into that now. Like about the minorities, like this African American. So if they want to have a better thing or what life, who will want to trade for them, right? And all these minorities, they also have like they have to buy these certain now moving on to my rebuttals on opening government. Okay, sure.
Your harm is based on a lot of people suddenly changing their race, hence racism, discrimination, blah, blah, blah. If you can see that a lot of people will bring it, then why is secrecy such a big issue?
Why is secrecy such a big issue? Because like what opening said earlier, that if you want to change yourself, it should be private. Yeah, I agree. It should be private, and that was kind of talk about secrecy, right? Replying the rebuttal I have towards opening government about this buying and selling of I'm going to continue about the private buying and selling thing, right? So if this is so, like people will not credit for who you are. They will just assume that you bought this certain skill from somewhere like a magic shop or whatever magic market they call it. Or they can even buy their skin color and all. Like therefore these people wouldn't even care about what you're good at. People can assume that you have correct good personalities, like sit down please. Those good personalities that you want. Those people they can just assume that you went to this magic shop, right? And now nobody will believe anyone in this world, right? And also the about Roshan again. If you are a good debater, I would buy that from you if you have that skill, right? What's the outcome from that? Yeah, sure. You steal that skill that you have. That you steal the skill that that the other person has from debating. But when you have that, but the outcome towards that is that people might even discriminate you more. Sit down. But will discriminate you even more because you just don't have skill. So even if naturally people can just people still can assume that you just went to this market and buy something. So it just doesn't have any competition in this world anymore, right? And also what my member said earlier about why money isn't a justifiable excuse to buy trade. Like self-confidence and self-value just complements that confidence. You have other things to look forward to, like your friends, your jobs, your family members, and all that. So all like if you're like sad or like desperate, money can't really change that, right? Another argument that my member has told y'all today was about pushing for acceptance, right? So what does this mean? Like, you know how people say that you should be African Americans, like you should be African Americans because you should be nice to them. Sorry, you should be nice to these African Americans because they didn't choose to be born that way. So if you have this market, right, the discrimination towards them becomes larger because they have a choice now to change the way they are, and some of them who don't have the money towards them because they are not doing the right, they are not changing the way themselves, and people discriminate everyone.